Hey guys, we're here back again, this time doing an update video on Vainglory All Stars. In my last video, I did mention I wanted to start following the development of the game. Any news or information I find out about the game, I wanted to present to you guys so we can all follow along and get excited and hopefully enjoy the game in the near future. But yeah, so we have our first look at some of the first mock-up levels. So with that said, this is not the official look at the level that's going to be in the final form of Vainglory All Stars. This is just a couple ideas they're messing around with. This is not even an actual mesh. This is just a painted picture to represent what it may look like if it was actually in game. So with that said, there are a lot of missing features here that aren't present, that could be present in the final form, which would make this level, even in its simplest form like this, look amazing. Like for instance, imagine this picture, but an actual 3D object, a mesh, if you will, with lighting, with ambient occlusion, with swaying grass, or those pits of lava or whatever that is starting to glow and intensify and pulsate. Things like that could really make a huge impact on the visual look of the game. Like the shadows being casted as the light hits the pillars on the top left, or a darker tones of some of the more creases of the mesh there to kind of give a bit more shape and form to all the structures using that ambient occlusion, or some of the light reflecting off of the crystals there, or light shafts coming down hitting some of the areas on the level. There's a lot of things they can do as far as the graphics to kind of give a bit more oomph to the overall feel while not being too resource intensive. So I'm really excited to see the final form of this. There's a huge appreciation for a developer that can take a low poly style of graphics and make it look amazing, but make it look basically AAA. It's pretty crazy what you can do with the limited amount of polygons, if you will, if you guys know anything about development. The lesser amount of polygons you have, the lesser detail you have, so you have to make up for it with textures or lighting or better shadows, things like that. And that can go a huge way in the level here. Even in this form right here, like I can already imagine it being so freaking awesome. But anyways, I digress. So let's go ahead and continue on. We do have another level as well to showcase, one that's a bit different. This one is more somber, more dark. It's kind of in uniform with what you would typically see in Vainglory, right? I mean, it's still cartoonish, this version is, but it still has that feel of Vainglory, a bit darker, a little bit more serious. Not as bright and vivid as you would see in Brawl Stars, which is purely cartoony. This one's a bit more, while friendly, can be serious as well. Like the accents of the crystals along with the magenta grass go really well together, along with the darker contrasted structures of the ground and the overall ruins behind it. A lot of that works really well together, and I really like the color palette, and it looks really, really nice, and I can't wait to see what happens. But anyways, let's go ahead and go into the other one, which is essentially the complete opposite as far as feel. So here we are. I mean, we go from dark to very bright and very vivid and very lively. We can see that we now have a greenish with a green grass with like a blue hue to it, with the white grayish structures around it. We even have the really bright green textured grass there. You can see in the background. And apparently we're floating in the sky. We have some clouds. It seems like that's an overall arching theme, is that these are just, floating structures. And I think we even had some of that basically in Vainglory. I mean, essentially Vainglory was just a floating continent or some sort, right? So it's kind of the same feel, same aesthetic. But this one, again, is a bit more serious. But again, I can see where the water itself here can be actual flowing water that actually moves as you step over it. Again, the swaying of the grass, the light hitting, the shafts of light hitting, the glistening of that center crystal, just kind of emphasizing on the overall importance of it. The birds flying in the background, that'd be really cool. I can really see a lot of special effects that would really bring this into its final form and kind of differentiate it from Brawl Stars. Because Brawl Stars, let's just face it, it's very simple. It looks nice, but the detail is very limited. But it works well together because that's how it was built from the ground up. With the Vainglory heroes, they need a bit more attention to detail to kind of bring that feel from the level to the characters kind of in unison, right? And without that, it kind of makes a very apparent distinction, and people kind of get off-put by it. For example, my last gameplay video, the most common comment, I think, was just how everything was looking weird. It didn't really match Vainglory. And so, I mean, despite the other comments saying, well, this can't replace Vainglory. Well, obviously. But hopefully, you know, there is some news. There are also some other news that I just stumbled upon, which is, as I stumbled with my words, the fact that Bazooka Tango, which is the developer of this particular game using the Vainglory IP, I went to their website and I'm pretty sure I recognized at least half of the people in the development team. And what I mean by that is I've gone to SMC's lair back when they were developing Vainglory, and I recognize some of these same people in the team of Bazooka Tango, which I think could mean really good news. Is that, like, yeah, right now the game looks very similar to Brawl Stars, and it looks very bare bones, and it's not very impressive quite yet. But given that I'm starting to see some people that were in the development team of Vainglory, I feel like there's a high potential that we're going to start seeing some quality changes coming to Vainglory All Stars to kind of differentiate it and kind of bring it back to what we used to seeing for Vainglory, but in this genre. So I'm really excited to see what changes are in store, how they're going to differentiate, not just visually, but also mechanically, how the game actually plays out, how certain modes are actually presented, and how everything kind of interacts, and how the characters work as far as how they actually fight. Do they have a cooldown system like they do in Vainglory, or do they have kind of a build-up system, whereas the more they hit something, they build up their abilities to where they can eventually use them, similar to Brawl Stars. I'm hoping it's the first one where, like, we kind of have the same system as Vainglory, but brought down to kind of a more of its simplistic form to kind of complement this type of game, but still having that overall arching feel of Vainglory, and which was really, really cool. And I'm hoping that's what it is. We're already seeing bits of that with some of the abilities being on cooldown already in the current playable form. And so hopefully they build upon that. And it's not just the one ability, because that just feels weird for me, especially with Vainglory characters. I'm hoping that we can have the full kits for every character, especially since they're already developed as far as the special effects, essentially what they do, how they function. A lot of that's already kind of implemented, and they just got to shift that code over and balance it properly for Vainglory All Stars. And hopefully it is as simple as that, just that. And that'd be awesome to kind of see that in the game. But anyways, there we go. We do have, again, here's this kind of recap. We do have the more darker, serious tone, a bit more sinister. I don't know, for lack of better words, just a lot more. It's kind of like brought down into the center of the earth type of feel, right? Like it's no longer in the sky, in the heavens. This is like heaven or hell. Like this, that's like the two different contrasts of the level. And this one is essentially just hell. But it looks nice. I really like it. I like the color palette. I like the contrast between the grass and the gems opposed to the ground and the overall structures around it. Looks really nice. I'm really excited, especially when they start adding those graphical features I was mentioning. I really want to see that in the game and start to see everything come together. And honestly, the better they have, the more they add these features to a more basic form, so like the low poly like look, the better optimized it's going to be, the smaller file size is going to be. Because the thing about Vainglory is that, like, detail is amazing in that game, right? But I guarantee you the meshes themselves, the models themselves, the level itself has a lot of, it takes a lot of resources. And therefore the file size is obviously higher. And when you have the low poly design like this, it really brings that down to a far more manageable file size, probably even less than a gig in its final form, potentially, maybe a bit more than that, but like not much more. And so therefore, I'm really excited to see how the community reacts to having a smaller file size while still having this really beautiful aesthetic and this Vainglory-esque feel to it overall. And even if though it's like all kind of brought down to a more simplistic form, I feel like, you know, me personally, I can appreciate some of the overall ideas they're kind of presenting here and how they're obviously listening to the community, because one of the main things was like they just don't like that it kind of breaks away from the Vainglory feel. They have the characters, but the level did not match. And now you can see here that they're starting to shift that because of that feedback. Probably they're trying to shift it to where it matches that feel. It gets people nostalgic. It gets people wanting to play it more, because the fact that the developers are actually listening and actually wanting to put the effort to make this feel and look like a AAA experience. Even though it is a genre that kind of contradicts that, I feel like they have the possibility to kind of make the genre feel and act like a AAA title if they do it right. But anyways, there you go. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Once again, here's the other level, just to kind of get a quick glance. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this series where I kind of go over some of the news. Again, as I keep getting more information, I'll keep presenting that to you guys to showcase some of the stuff here in the game. And hopefully we'll be able to experience it in-game soon and start to really get excited about the game going forward. But there you go. Once again, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you guys next time. Later!